Welcome to another video in my Coronet Yacht 44 series about Dubai Coronet. In this ad hoc series I make videos on work and improvements to my 1976 Coronet Yacht 44, the last of 14 built and one of the last 4 remaining afloat. As you saw previously, or some time ago, I recently carried out a major stern gear overhaul and took the opportunity to renew the anti-fouling on the boat. I don't like anti-fouling in any shape or form. It's not environmentally friendly, despite what paint companies say. So I decided to research alternatives. I discovered that ultrasonic pulse wave technology could be used to keep hulls and stern gear clean and therefore never have to anti-foul again. I contacted a company in Slovenia, Smart Anti-Fouling, who got back to me immediately and suggested that I test their LITE2 system. The boat needs a Pro 6 system, but they said save some money, test it out, make sure you're happy with it, and then we'll talk about an upgrade. So this video is about installing those 2 transducers and beginning to test them. So if you want to follow me on my ultrasonic journey, please subscribe, because there'll be monthly videos for the next 3 months at least as I determine the effectiveness. Another video on some upgrades to Dubai Coronet. I've just purchased a Smart Anti-Fouling system. I was quite lucky that I contacted them, and all I wanted to do was really see if they would sell me at the dealer price, because they haven't got a dealer in the UAE, so I thought I'd try my luck. And I was lucky, because they said we're having a promotion very soon. It's called the 30-30-30 promotion. The first 30 customers get 30% discount in celebration of 30 years of Slovenia's independence. So that was a result. And they also recommended a really good guys, because they could have sold me a full Pro 6 system, which my boat needs. They said take the LITE2, test it, and if it works and you like it and you make some videos, we'll do a similar deal for the Pro 6, to upgrade to the Pro 6. So the LITE2 is upgraded to the Pro 6. The LITE2 is suitable for boats up to 30 feet long. For mine, 44 feet and wider, ideally I should have the Pro 6. I put a link in the description below where you can find all the details. This costs me 686 euros with the discount. Sorry people, you'll have to pay 30% more, and it costs just under 100 euros to ship it to the UAE, and then there were some taxes and import duties to pay. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. As you know, we've recently anti-fouled the boat, and we've cleaned the propellers, shaft and balance them. So I want to keep that like that for as long as possible. And I don't really like anti-fouling. I like the boat to be as sustainable as possible, but fundamentally I have a problem with putting a coating which wears off over time into the sea. It's one of the things I've grappled with, and it's one of the reasons that I wanted to go with the ultrasonic anti-fouling kit. This works very simply. You just see there's a couple of transducers. We're going to open the box in a minute, and there's a control box. You connect it all up to your batteries, and then there's various settings. I'm going to run it on the highest settings. The reason you would change the settings is really just to save power, which we've got plenty of on the boat. I think for this system they say if you're not connected to shore power, it would be ideal to put a 150 watt solar system on the boat, or you could put a small wind generator. So anyway, let's get this open. I'm really excited. It came really fast. I only paid for it about, I think, 4 days ago, and it's here today. So let's get into this. Let's take these documents off. Really good service, really quick to respond. Nicely packed. I'd printed the instructions off already, and there's a setting there. Well, that would be pretty obvious. So in here, got the cables. This is the sandpaper and epoxy bonding kit. They also include some alcohol wipes. I'll go through that in a minute. This is what you bond to the hull. So that's epoxy bonded to the hole, you clean it, sand it, and then you put some gel on here, and you, too much single, you don't need this, guys, please. You don't need to wrap the stuff in single-use plastic when you're packing it like this. We seem to love just having things covered in plastic. I mean, that's fine. That's a fine. Please stop using this plastic. Please. If the wind blew, it'd end up in the dock, and I'd have to jump in and swim and get it. Or send Peter, who's filming for me at the moment. You fit that on there. The instructions are quite clear. You put some tape over it to hang it, to help it. They say leave it an hour. I'll leave it overnight. Then you put some coupling gel on here, and that screws on. Right, we'll be showing you that when we install them. There's the other, I guess that's called the mount, the transducer mount. I like the fact that these are separate, because then you can really get in, place these, and then screw the coupling on. There's the contact gel or contact paste, as they call it, which goes on there. These are the cables that connect to the transducer. I'm not sure how long they are at the moment. I've not read that, but it looks plenty long enough, because we can mount the control box to match the length of the cables. Again, plastic. I don't like this, guys. Please stop this plastic. It's not cool. That's the control box. We'll be opening that up when we install the system. So there it is. I want to put these in the rear of the boat. I've not yet decided. Will I just do the starboard side or the port side, or shall I cover the full back? Where you've got rudders, shafts, propellers, you use one of these every 5 square meters. So I sent my video to Smart Anti-Fouling before posting it on YouTube, just to get their comments, to see if I'd done anything wrong in the installation. And they came back to me, and what a surprise. They are now going to stop single-use plastic wherever they can. In particular, remember I complained about the transducers coming in single-use plastic and the control box. That stops now, people. What a great company. Smart Anti-Fouling, thank you for doing that. We're going to install 2 transducers, both on the starboard side in the rear quarter. This one you can see here is next to the rudders, and then we're going to install another one forward of this, about 3 meters. So we'll cover the area of the shaft and the rudders and the anti-fouling, and we'll see how that works. We're just going to use a marker pen and mark the position of the transducer plate, and then we can get on with grinding and preparing that surface. So the second one we're putting here, you can see here we've got the shaft tunnel, some extra hull reinforcement, so that's looking like the best place to put the second transducer for the test. So we'll just mark around there, and then what we're gonna do is sand that and install the mounting plate. But as we've got time, instead of leaving it for an hour, we're going to leave it for 24 hours, because we can get all the electrics done, everything done, before we have to screw on the main transducer. So the epoxy will be stronger then. So we've got some work to do to get all this done, and we'll leave it in place, and then we'll work on the electrical installation. So using a small hand grinder, we're taking off all the coatings that have been applied, just to get down to bare fiberglass. And here you can see the area after we've sanded it. And now we're going to clean it with some alcohol and just a rag to get rid of all the dust and make it nice and clean to receive the epoxy. So just a quick wipe, remove all the dust. Here we're just removing the mount from the transducer. We'd screw them on just so they wouldn't get lost. And again, we're cleaning up the transducer face with alcohol, just to make sure there's nothing on there that would affect the bond of the epoxy. And then we're marking again the position, and we're going to mix the epoxy in position. Very easy to do. Just put a straight line of hardener and an equal line of base, and then we just mix it up in situ there and then, as you can see. So once it looks uniform in colour, we know it's mixed, and then we're going to spread the epoxy. That's why we marked where the transducer will sit. You can see there, nice and easy job to do. And once you've fully wetted out the surface with the epoxy, you can then put the transducer mounting plate in position, push it down, and then we're going to secure that with masking tape. And we're using the original 3M masking tape just to make sure it stays nice and stuck overnight. We're going to leave this to cure for 24 hours to make sure we've got the maximum bond. So there you go, the second layer of masking tape on, and we will just leave that until tomorrow. So we're going to need to drill a hole just through here to pass the cable through. We're not using conduit in this section because the cable is pretty protected, and we're running it through a cupboard here. If the wire does go through any areas where it could be damaged, we will put it in conduit, but if not, we'll just loose lay it. We had wanted to put the control unit inside one of these cupboards, but we've just mocked up the cable going above surface, and we think we're going to be a bit short by the time we've fed it all the way through the boat. So for the trial, we're going to put the control unit just inside here where we've got plenty of space. When we put the full system in with 6 transducers after the test, we'll then figure out exactly where we're going to finally put the control box, and then put cable extensions in as required if necessary, or we might just keep it here if it works. So you can see here on the installation instructions, they've got a complete variety of settings. So we're going to use the suggested settings at the bottom. You'll see there's recommended, high power, low power. We're going to start off on high power for the first month, then go to the suggested for another month, and then finally we're going to put it on low power for a month, and that will be our 3-month evaluation period to see if adjusting the power has any effect on the barnacle growth. So we're just setting it to high now before we install the box onto the panel. So we're just going to install the box now onto the aluminium panel or backplate. We're doing a temporary wiring connection while we're doing the trial, because we will be upgrading, if it works, to 6 transducers. So we're just going to run the wires horizontally. As you can see now, we've brought the transducers up. We will run those cables vertically via the engine room when we put the full system in, and then cover them with a nice aluminium plate to make it look nice and tidy. But as you can see, for the time being, we're just coming in from the side there. So you can see there we've got both the transducers hooked up and the power, and we're just putting a temporary fix there just to hold the cable in position. So there it is, nicely installed, and I'll just talk now how we've handled the power connection. We have a stabilised power supply on the boat for the 12-volt systems and some of the 24-volt systems. There's no requirement to use a stabilised power supply. It was just very easy for us because we had capacity in our 12-volt supply just to hook it up, because it was very close to the control box. The system operates both on 24 and 12 volts, so you haven't got to worry about that. It was just nice and easy and convenient for us to do it this way. So we've left the base plate bonded to the hole with tape and epoxy underneath for just over 24 hours. As I said, we had time to do it. We know the epoxy will be stronger. You can see we ground away the paint to reveal some of the fiberglass to get a better bond, and we've got the transducer cable in position. So all it requires now is for us to remove that tape, install the transducer, connect up the wires, and we can power up the system. But before we do that, we're just going to paint around the fiberglass just so it looks nice we're also going to address, I'm not happy with the way the through-hole lights were installed by the marina we were at last time. We weren't permitted to install them ourselves. Once the boat's in there dry dock, only they can do the work, and I'm very worried about this leaking in the future. So we're going to address that now at the same time and handle all these lights so there's no possibility of them leaking. We're also going to tidy up, there's blanking plugs here, and the boat a long time ago had trim tabs fitted. They were removed. They weren't serving any useful purpose, and again this is working, but it's a bit unsightly, and while we're in here I want to take the opportunity just to clean it all up and make it more secure for the future. So we're just removing some of this, and as you see, it just peeled off. So what we'll do, we'll remove all of that and we'll fiberglass over to make it a permanent seal, and then paint the whole bay and it will look a lot nicer. And here's our second mounting plate, which we're just going to remove the tape from now. So there it is, nicely bonded, and we'll just paint around the edge so it all looks uniform, and then on with the transducer. So here's the rear transducer near the transom. You can see we've cleaned up everything. It's really looking good now. I am doing a separate video on how we treated the lights, but you can see there's no possibility of leakage. I'm just going to try and get a shot of the cable. You can see the cable coming out the top above the waterline. That means we have no risk of leakage. So that's really nice. We're going to do that where all the lights were installed, and then have a much cleaner, safer installation. And you can see the back end is looking very tidy. This is the transducer mount that's forward of the one you just saw, and we've let the coating cure for a day. Now we're removing the masking tape, and there you can see there's a transducer mount ready for us to screw on a transducer. So we're getting the transducer ready. We're just giving that a clean with alcohol. We will also clean the transducer mount because there could be some residual stuff on there from the masking tape. The next thing we're going to do is apply the contact gel or paste to the full face. You can just see here this is doing the thread, but we have applied it to the full face of the mount and a little bit on the transducer itself, so we make sure we get a good contact. We can then screw on the transducer by hand, as you can see here. So hand tight, and then we just give it a nip with a strap wrench. We don't use any thread lock. We spoke to the manufacturer and they recommended not to use any thread lock, just in case we wanted to move it in the future. So, and then we just connect up, and then ready to power on. There's a switch underneath the unit that you just switch on and it's ready to use. So this is what our props look like on the day we set the system up. You can see nice and clean, the anti-fouling's nice and clean. This is the starboard rear quarter. So we're hoping that this stays like this now, and if we come over to the other side of the boat on the port side, you can see it's all nice and clean as well, and this is what should foul later on, but let's see. Well, as you can see, I've got a nice clean bottom. I want to keep it that way. I hope the Smart Anti-Fouling does what it says on the can. We can, when we run it at high, feel or hear the waves, so I'm pretty confident. We are testing starboard where we fitted the transducers versus port, so we should get a pretty good idea within a month or so if anything's growing on the bottom. Hit the subscribe button to follow me as I upload monthly videos on the Smart Anti-Fouling system for the next 3 months or so.